Fortrose, a Highland village with a bloody past. On the north shore of the Murray Firth lies the village of Fortrose, a traditional Highland village. White cottages line the roads and churches grace the skyline. A pleasant, peaceful place to live and visit. Now, let's leave this charming modern village and take a walk back in time, in the steps of the folk who lived here generations ago. Through the 19th century, back to the fortress of the 17th century, to a time of mutilations, burnings and hangings. First stop, the Market Cross on the High Street. It lost its top countless years ago, so only the stone shaft remains today. Missing too is the iron ring at the bottom of the cross, where an iron collar called in old Scots the Duke's was once attached. A fairly innocuous relic of a bygone age at first glance. The mists of time now shroud the cross's real purpose. Centuries ago it was the symbol of authority in the village, and the gathering place for, amongst other things, the meting out of punishment. If you'd been here on the cold winter's day of the 25th of January 1690, you would have seen three people, Neil, Scianach, Duncan and John, receive punishments for the crime of stealing beer on the Sabbath. Neil had the iron collar locked around his neck and his left cheek branded with the Tolbooth key. Duncan had his ear nailed to the post at the cross and his left shoulder branded with the key. And John had his right ear nailed to the post for 3 hours and then had the lobe of his left ear cut off. Have another look at the cross. Does it seem quite so harmless now? Let's move away from this place and seek the quiet sanctuary of the cathedral ruins close by. Cathedral Square is a beautiful, tranquil spot today, a place for meditation and contemplation. Glance over at the 2-storey building with steps near the cathedral. Quite a harmless-looking old building. That's the Tolbooth, which was locked by the key used to such unpleasant effect at our first stop. Nice and peaceful here, today. If you'd been standing here on the 28th of November 1577, though, the scene would have been very different. You would have seen comings and goings and lots of activity. It was on that day that Christian Ross was tried in the Tolbooth on the charge of witchcraft. Christian, along with several other people, had become involved with Catherine Munro, Lady Fowles, who wished to dispose of her stepson and sister-in-law, and was using witchcraft to do it. Christian was accused of meeting with other witches, practising ritual acts, using clay images, and attempting to cause death by poisoning. She was found guilty of practising witchcraft and was sentenced to death by burning. Shall we follow in her footsteps along the road to Shannon Point, where the sentence was carried out? Christian was one of 3,837 witches named in accusations of witchcraft while the Witchcraft Act was in force in Scotland in the period 1563 to 1736. She was not the only witch to be burnt here. It's quiet at Shannon Point these days, a favourite spot for dolphin spotters. Look out across the beautiful Murray Firth, listen to the sound of the waves on the shingle and feel the wind in your face, and be glad that you were not here on that day in 1698 when Margaret Moore was sent to meet her Maker. Margaret found herself at Shannon Point after being tried at the Tolbooth on the charges of murdering her own child, adultery and incest. She was found guilty and sentenced to death, following the same road as Christian to Shannon Point. Here she was strangled and hung. Her right arm was then cut off at the elbow and put on a pole at the highest point of the hill above Fortrose, a grisly warning to others who might be tempted to transgress. Come back now, with a sense of relief, to 21st century Fortrose. Why not linger for a while here at Shannon Point and let your mind wander? Look around. You might just be able to make out, on the other side of the Murray Firth, Fort George, built to keep the Highlanders in check after the Battle of Culloden in 1746. Look to your left and you will see the lighthouse, designed by Alan Stevenson, the uncle of Robert Louis Stevenson. The beaches before you were used for exercises during World War II to practice the D-Day landings. In front of you, you will see a stone monument to the mysterious Bran seer who was burnt here in a barrel of tar, according to tradition, for incurring the wrath of Isabella, wife of the 3rd Earl of Seaforth. Wherever you find yourself in the Highlands, history, interesting, mysterious, emotive or gruesome, is never very far away.